James Arness became the pillar of Gunsmoke's 20-year legacy by embodying Marshal Matt Dillon's authority and composed manner. There was one co-star he didn't particularly enjoy sharing the screen with, even though his professionalism and kindness made him popular among the cast and crew. As disparities in working methods and interpersonal relationships became apparent, tensions increased on the set. This conflict shadowed their generally vibrant group. Who was this cast member, though, and why did Arness want them removed? Gunsmoke, the longest-running Western in Hollywood, had its share of backstage turmoil. Stay tuned as we learn more about this unexpected split and how it affected one of TV's most recognizable series. Long-term, long-standing success. Gunsmoke had a remarkable 20-year television career from 1955 to 1975. Westerns dominated television in the 1950s, but in the decades that followed, their appeal declined. Despite this change, Gunsmoke remained the most recognizable and adored Western series, making it the gold standard. Its compelling narrative, nuanced characters, and realistic depiction of the Old West captivated audiences. Gunsmoke adapted and flourished, becoming a cultural icon even as trends shifted toward other genres. Families gathered weekly to see Marshal Matt Dillon administer justice, guaranteeing that the program will always be a must-see and an essential aspect of television history. The show changed the shape. Originally a radio drama, Gunsmoke made its television premiere. The format changed several times as it moved to television to accommodate viewers' shifting needs. It was a 30-minute black-and-white program at first. It continued to be in black and white, but expanded to an hour-long format as its popularity increased. The series eventually adopted full color, which improved its aesthetic appeal even more. Every change was a conscious attempt to remain interesting and relevant. Gunsmoke established itself as a pillar of television history and one of the longest-running scripted dramas of all time by demonstrating its adaptability and inventiveness via constant change. Doc's nameless 16 seasons. Dr. Adams, lovingly referred to as Doc, was a character without a first name for 16 seasons. Doc, portrayed by Milburn Stone, was a program's mainstay, but this fact was interestingly kept a secret. The authors trusted Stone to name him because they felt he understood the character best. Inspired by the Greek physician Galen, a trailblazer in medical science, Stone selected Galen. The name was a worthy homage, giving a character more nuance and reflecting the historical figure's compassion and wisdom. Gunsmoke was a radio show first. Gunsmoke was a pioneering radio drama from 1952 to 1961 before becoming a television success. The radio adaptation was widely praised for its realistic portrayal of the Wild West and gritty storytelling. Producers bravely decided to continue the show's radio version for an additional 6 years when it moved to television in 1955. Because of its dual presence, Gunsmoke could dominate both media simultaneously, establishing its reputation as an entertainment pioneer. Additionally, the radio program served as a basis for the television series, guaranteeing the continuity and genuineness that viewers loved. John Wayne said no. At first, Hollywood star John Wayne was being considered for the part of Dodge City's stoic marshal, Matt Dillon. Wayne, however, refused, primarily due to the demanding nature of a television production schedule. Wayne gave the show his support despite not accepting the job, and he even shot a promotional opening for the pilot episode, giving Gunsmoke's debut some star power. Although his support undoubtedly contributed to the role's popularity, James Arness eventually took over and made it his own, leaving a legacy that matched even Wayne's legendary stature. James Arness's War Service. James Arness served in the U.S. military before becoming an actor. He served with the 3rd Infantry Division during World War II and the Allied invasion of Anzio, Italy, after being drafted in 1943. 10 days into the campaign, German machine gun fire seriously injured Arness, causing him to lose a portion of his foot. He received multiple honors, including the Bronze Star and Purple Heart, and was honorably discharged. Arness's perseverance and stoic manner were shaped by these experiences, which he later carried over into his role as Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke. Arness's war injuries delayed filming. Throughout his acting career, James Arness was impacted by the wounds he received during World War II. Special accommodations were made to alleviate his physical strain on the Gunsmoke set. Before his knees and feet became too uncomfortable, scenes that required a lot of walking or physical activity were filmed early in the morning. His portrayal of Matt Dillon stayed flawless because the production team used imaginative scheduling to get around his constraints. In addition to demonstrating his commitment to the part, Arness's resolve to endure his suffering also matched the character's tenacity. Arness struggles with arthritis. The after effects of James Arness's wartime injuries started to show as Gunsmoke's 20-season run continued. His physical limitations were exacerbated by severe arthritis in his later years, which made it hard for him to put up with long shooting days. The production crew planned Arness's sequences for the same day to accommodate his condition and give him time to relax and recuperate between takes. Despite these difficulties, Arness maintained a strong on-screen presence, evidence of his expertise and steadfast dedication to the project. A face for radio. William Conrad provided the voice of Matt Dillon on the radio, and his rich voice made the character come to life. Conrad, however, didn't match the new idea for the position when Gunsmoke moved to television. In the opinion of the producers, James Arness's big build and rugged good looks better reflected the frontier marshal's heroic persona. Matt Dillon became one of the most recognizable characters in television history thanks to Arness's classic portrayal. Thus, the choice paid off. Conrad, on the other hand, demonstrated his versatility by going on to have a prosperous career in both film and television. Gary Busey's role in Gunsmoke. During the penultimate season of the series, Gary Busey made a notable appearance on Gunsmoke. Busey portrayed the role of Harv Daly in the third-to-last episode. Daly was the last character to be killed on Gunsmoke, and his tragic death was a historic event. In addition to enhancing Busey's expanding resume, this guest appearance connected him to the history of one of television's most recognizable shows. His portrayal of Daly was a memorable finale to the series' lengthy tradition of intense drama and moving narrative. From Madam to Miss. The character of Miss Kitty Mitchell was made more complex because her beginnings as a professional madam on the Gunsmoke radio show were a public secret. However, particularly in its prime, television had more stringent content regulations. Network officials recognized how crucial it was to keep Gunsmoke family-friendly to preserve its broad appeal. Because of this, her career was minimized on the broadcast and her past was barely mentioned. Kitty became well-liked as she developed into a reputable businesswoman who operated the Long Branch Saloon. The audience found her more relatable due to this change, which guaranteed that the show would successfully appeal to viewers of all ages without causing any issues. Politics altered Gunsmoke's opening. Matt Dillon and a challenger engaged in a suspenseful gunfight from the very beginning of Gunsmoke. The series' tone was established by this powerful visual, which also highlighted the perils of living in Dodge City. But as the 1970s rolled around in America, attitudes about media violence started to change drastically. Television networks were pressured to tone down such material as anti-violence campaigns gained traction. As a result, Gunsmoke made adjustments by substituting a more muted opening sequence for the famous gunfight. This choice preserved the core of the performance while reflecting shifting cultural standards. Gunsmoke showed its ability to adjust and withstand societal changes by changing with the times and retaining its status as a household favorite. Opening scene joke. One of the most recognizable scenes in television history is the opening credits of Gunsmoke, which see Matt Dillon facing off against an unidentified shooter. However, astute viewers may detect a hint of Hollywood repurposing. The scene of Gary Cooper's iconic western, High Noon, is the same dusty street where this confrontation occurs. James Arness, who portrayed Dillon, added humor to the filming experience, adding to its history. He let the shooter win during one take, resulting in a unique and amusing situation that left the group laughing. In contrast to his austere on-screen appearance, this lighthearted behind-the-scenes exchange demonstrated the camaraderie on set and Arness's amiable disposition. Gilligan's Island saved Gunsmoke. To make a place for new programming, CBS had to make the difficult decision to cancel one of its popular shows in 1967. After dominating primetime television for more than 10 years, Gunsmoke was initially scheduled to be canceled. Fans of the show, however, were incensed and flooded CBS with protests and letters. Some CBS executives even supported the continuation of the Western because they had a personal stake in its success. Ultimately, the network chose to discontinue Gilligan's Island in favor of Gunsmoke, guaranteeing its existence. After that, the show was shifted to Monday nights, where it flourished. This choice not only illustrated Gunsmoke's cultural influence, but also the ability of its devoted fan base to shape television history. Gunsmoke holds a major TV record. With an astounding 635 episodes spread across 20 seasons, Gunsmoke set the record for decades for most episodes of any primetime scripted series. This record stood until 2018, when the cartoon powerhouse The Simpsons overtook it. The Simpsons humorously depict contemporary American life, while Gunsmoke encapsulates the rough-and-tumble essence of the Old West. The Simpsons had broadcast more than 700 episodes in more than 30 seasons as of right now. Even so, Gunsmoke's accomplishments are still enormous. Its tenacity in the face of intense competition and a lack of television programming cemented its place as a pioneer and timeless primetime television legend. The co-star James Arness couldn't tolerate. James Arness, who portrayed Marshal Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke, was known for being a professional and laid-back co-star, but he had one significant exception to this rule. According to reports, the actor fell out with Amanda Blake, who played Dillon's romantic interest, and the saloon owner, Kitty Russell. The show's camaraderie was occasionally disturbed by personal disagreements and creative differences, which led to tension behind the scenes. Despite being a fan favorite, Blake and Arness did not get along on set, and Arness even privately stated that he would prefer that she leave. Their tumultuous relationship is nevertheless an interesting element in the history of one of the most recognizable westerns on television, even though Blake was a significant character for 19 seasons before leaving on her own volition. No finale. Fans faced the melancholy reality that there would not be a grand finale to say goodbye to the cherished series when Gunsmoke concluded in 1975. Unaware that the 20th season would be the final one, the creators concluded the plot as they had for each previous season, leaving it open-ended. In contrast to contemporary television programs that meticulously compose poignant farewells, Gunsmoke ended with a typical episode. This sudden termination left many viewers yearning for closure for a program that had been a mainstay of American television for 20 years. Its legacy is unblemished, nevertheless, since its essence is preserved by innumerable replays and the recollections of its enduring characters. Arness and Stone, almost every episode. During Gunsmoke's illustrious run, James Arness played the unwavering Marshal Matt Dillon in every episode. Milburn Stone, who played the sage and funny Doc Adams, almost equaled this achievement and missed just 6 episodes in 1971 because of a heart attack. Stone showed remarkable tenacity and devotion to his work when he returned to the series after a brief absence. Together, Arness and Stone embodied the show's essence and came to represent it. Their constant presence also aided Gunsmoke's long success, as fans developed a strong bond with their characters as they experienced the highs and lows of Dodge City life. James Arness had horrible arthritis. The impact of James Arness's battlefield injuries became more noticeable as Gunsmoke approached its last 10 years. Long filming days were practically impossible for him due to his terrible arthritis and previous wounds. The production crew arranged for Arness's segments in each episode to be filmed daily to accommodate his condition. This gave him the vital time to rest and recover to keep providing the powerful performances his fans adored. Arness's reputation as one of television's most durable and adored actors was cemented when he refused to let his physical limitations affect his performance as Matt Dillon. Gunsmoke ended Glenn Strange's film career. Best recognized for playing Sam, the devoted bartender at the Long Branch Saloon, Glenn Strange added humor and heart to Gunsmoke's grim environment. His performance won him over viewers and gave the ensemble cast of the program more nuance. Throughout his lengthy and illustrious Hollywood career, Strange played Frankenstein's monster in several movies. His last work before his death in 1973 was Gunsmoke. His contributions to the show and the entertainment business will never be forgotten. In addition to being a vital component of the Gunsmoke family, fans recall him as a gifted character actor. Original Miss Kitty wasn't Amanda Blake. Although Amanda Blake's performance as Miss Kitty Russell became famous, the filmmakers didn't initially consider her for the part. Actress Polly Bond was first chosen to play Kitty. By the age of 11, Bond, a seasoned performer from a family in show business, had established herself in westerns, but she turned down the chance to concentrate on her private life, making room for Blake. After assuming the part, Blake made Kitty one of the most adored TV characters. Sometimes fate has a better plan, and her charisma and depth gave Gunsmoke a unique vitality. The cast had no idea the show was canceled. The cast and viewers were taken aback by Gunsmoke's discontinuation in 1975. The conclusion was abrupt, in contrast to today's well-planned finales. Instead of hearing directly from the producers, the cast members, aside from James Arness, found out about the cancellation through news reports. Arness then acknowledged that he was only notified because trade journals had previously reported the story. The cast and crew were caught off guard by the lack of communication, which led to a dismal conclusion for one of the most cherished westerns on television. Multiple actors auditioned for Matt Dillon. Casting Matt Dillon, Dodge City's stoic marshal, wasn't easy. Before choosing James Arness, producers tried out several actors, such as Denver Pyle and Raymond Burr. None of the candidates embodied the character as well as Arness. Still, each one brought a different perspective to the part. He was the ideal option because of his tough exterior and imposing presence, which cemented his status as a timeless representation of the golden age of television. Despite the problematic casting procedure, Arness was the perfect Matt Dillon, influencing the character for over 20 years. The show was #1 for 4 years. Gunsmoke was the top-rated television program in America from 1957 until 1961. Millions of people watched the Dodge City adventures every week during this time when its popularity peaked. However, ratings declined due to a significant format change from a half-hour show to a full-hour program. Despite this, Gunsmoke achieved popularity again in the late 1960s and early 1970s, demonstrating its tenacity and capacity to hold viewers' attention even in the face of early losses. They had 5 movies. The last episode of Gunsmoke didn't mark the end of its history. Gunsmoke: Return to Dodge, Gunsmoke: The Last Apache, Gunsmoke: To the Last Man, Gunsmoke: The Long Ride, and Gunsmoke: One Man's Justice are the 5 made-for-TV films that featured the cast reunited between 1987 and 1994. In all 5 movies, James Arness played the legendary character of Matt Dillon again. Even though these efforts weren't criticized, they allowed fans to re-experience Dodge City and offered a sentimental continuance of the series' history. Get the hell out of Dodge. The expression, "get the hell out of Dodge," was immortalized by Gunsmoke, alluding to the Dodge City, Kansas setting off the show. The line became a trademark catchphrase for Matt Dillon's villains being chased out of town. By the 1960s and 1970s, the expression had become a slang term for hurrying, leaving a place by both adults and youths. Nevertheless, the expression indicates the show's cultural effect and influence on the American language, even though its use has diminished over time. Matt Dillon was a fighter, not a lover. In 634 episodes throughout the show's 20-year run, Matt Dillon, played by James Arness, only shared a kiss with a lady once, and it took a very long time. Dillon and Michael Learned, who played Mike Gardner, locked lips in the 3rd episode of the 19th season, which was appropriately titled Matt's Love Story. She appeared in a 2nd episode of that season, and 17 years later, Learned brought her character back to life in the 1990 television film Gunsmoke: The Last Apache. Learned poses with co-star Richard Thomas in the 1973 image above, following her Emmy Award for her portrayal of Olivia Walton on The Waltons. The origin of Chester's limp. In the DVD commentary for Gunsmoke, Dennis Weaver, who played Chester, revealed a fascinating backstory about his character. The reason Chester never carried a gun was a noteworthy aspect. Considering the show's title, this seemed an odd choice. The production team wanted Chester to represent a non-violent character in sharp contrast to the series' usual gunslinging tone. Weaver was instructed to give Chester a distinctive quality to set him apart from Matt Dillon. He made the imaginative decision to give Chester a limp, which gave the character more nuance and increased his memorability. Chester's physical peculiarity distinguished him and became one of his distinguishing characteristics, securing his status as a charming character in television history. Speaking of that limp, Dennis Weaver later said he regretted his choice, even if Chester's limp became recognizable in Gunsmoke. He admitted in the DVD commentary that it was much more complex than he had thought to maintain a limp across 290 episodes. His performance was unexpectedly made more difficult by the physical strain of repeating the same act in scene after scene. Chester's limp made him unique, but it also significantly affected Weaver's filming experience, leaving him worn out after long days on the set. Weaver stayed dedicated to his part despite these difficulties, ensuring Chester's limp persisted throughout the series. Millions of fans loved the character because of its authenticity and realism, which were enhanced by this commitment. Ken Curtis's versatility and willingness. Ken Curtis, who made an astounding 307 appearances over 16 years, became an essential element of Gunsmoke. Curtis, best known for his role as Festus Hagen, showed off his incredible versatility by playing various roles in previous seasons. For instance, he played an Indian in one of the first half-hour programs and a Texas cattleman who became friends with Chester before dying young in another. Curtis's adaptability and desire to play various parts demonstrated his commitment and acting prowess. Because of his adaptability, he became a fan favorite and a classic Gunsmoke family member, solidifying his place in the show's history. From Gunsmoke to Star Trek. Given that all 4 senior officers from the first Star Trek series appeared on Gunsmoke, the relationship between the show and Star Trek is intriguing. DeForest Kelley, who played Dr. McCoy, appeared in Season 1, while William Shatner, who played Captain Kirk, made a cameo in a Season 12 episode. Leonard Nimoy, well known for his role as Spock, had 4 appearances in Seasons 7, 8, and 11, while James Doohan, who played Scotty in Star Trek, appeared in 1 episode during Season 8. These appearances highlight the crossover between the 2 legendary series, which also showcase the pool of gifted actors that contributed to the development of television's golden age. Dennis Weaver's famous accent. Although it hardly ever happened, Chester's charming country accent became one of the character's most notable features. Producers weren't impressed with Dennis Weaver's initial Gunsmoke audition since it didn't go well. Weaver convinced them to let him try out again since he was desperate for another shot. This time, he took a bold, creative risk by using a strong country accent, and it worked. Weaver got the part because the producers were enthralled. Chester became one of the most adored characters on the show because of his accent, which gave him more realism. It's evidence of Weaver's brilliance and perseverance that turned a possible rejection into a turning point in his career. Going for 700? Many of the cast and crew of Gunsmoke thought the program still had years left to go, so they were startled when it was abruptly canceled after 20 seasons. With aspirations of reaching the lofty milestone of 700 episodes, it was expected that Gunsmoke would continue for at least 3 more seasons. After the sudden closure, those who worked on the show felt a sense of unresolved business. With 635 episodes and a legacy that few television programs have been able to match, the series made a lasting impression on television history despite its eventual demise. Arness, the goofball? Despite playing Marshal Matt Dillon in a serious role, James Arness was surprisingly humorous off-camera. According to his stunt double, Ben Bates, Arness's contagious laughing frequently added humor to the scene. Bates said about Arness's uncontrollable giggles, which occasionally caused production to halt filming. This lighthearted side of Arness provided a window into the joy and camaraderie that went on behind the scenes and contrasted sharply with his on-screen demeanor. His charisma was enhanced by his ability to balance humor and seriousness, which won him the affection of his co-workers and fans. Dillon's horse's name. If you're a major Gunsmoke fan, you've most likely seen the entire series and many episodes a few times. Nevertheless, one piece of trivia is only mentioned once in all 630-plus episodes: Dillon's horse's name. In one episode, Festus, played by Ken Curtis, calls Dillon's horse by name. The animal's name had only been used once over the entire length of the show. What is Marshall Dillon's horse's name? Buck. John Wayne suggested James for the role. John Wayne suggested and convinced his friend James Arness to accept the job in Gunsmoke when it was offered to him. At first, Arness was apprehensive about taking the job, since many believed it would endanger his career. Wayne, however, persuaded him to adopt his viewpoint. By the stream at Vidgo. One of the most popular and enduring television programs in history is Gunsmoke. It can be classified as a Western drama series. After The Simpsons, it is the second longest-running show with seasons and episodes. For classic Western dramas, Gunsmoke set the standard. Additionally, it made it possible for actors who were already well-known and wanted a role to gain recognition before they became notoriety. Dodge City Cowboys take to the airwaves. Before the popular British comic strip Gunsmoke, a television show called Gun Law was developed. The radio program premiered in 1952 and continued with the performance until its cancellation in 1961 after 400 episodes, with frequently bleak and tragic plot lines rather than having lovely Hollywood endings. Gun Law was more realistic than the TV series. Dodge City ropes actors in Hollywood. To participate in shootouts and crazy times at the Long Ranch Saloon, a long list of famous people flocked to Dodge City's Crazy West. Peter, Jan, and Cindy from the Brady Bunch, and Kirk and Spock from Star Trek made cameos in more family-friendly episodes. Burt Reynolds played the half-native Quint Asper regularly from 1962 until 1965. The hardest-working cowboy in show business. Ultimately, John Wayne's old wartime colleague, James Arness, was cast as Matt Dillon. He has the most outstanding work ethic and the look of a real war hero. He was the most loyal cowboy on the show because he was the only actor who appeared in every episode. James Arness is a real-life hero. Before facing Wild West criminals as Marshal Matt Dillon, James Arness, a popular television actor who was on the front lines in 1944 and was shot in the lower leg and foot at the Battle of Anzio in Italy, participated in real-life battles during World War II. He was awarded the Bronze Star and Purple Heart for his bravery in battle, and upon his return home, he was celebrated as a war hero. He suffered from chronic discomfort and an arthritic disease as a result of the injuries, which reduced his time spent filming. Thus, he's just spent a few hours filming his strolling scenes in the morning.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon